What about the fact that Bill Gates has been out there saying that he enjoyed a 3-hour conversation with Donald Trump, and they talked about vaccines? And obviously we know that Donald Trump was very enthusiastic about Operation Warp Speed, and and was quick and happy and enthusiastic about taking credit for rapid rollout of so-called vaccines. How would you interpret that from Bill Gates? How would you fold that into the bigger picture? Because Gates has made no secret of the fact that this is the vaccines are the most lucrative return on investment that he's ever been involved with. And if he too is able to grow.
They're lucrative because there's no liability. So one thought that I'm hearing from the whispers is, rather than ban the mRNA, remove the liability protection, and then the market would take care of itself. But, that's less ideal for me. I want to see a cleansing. I want to see truth. I want to see this come to light. It's lucrative because there's no liability. And that was a law that was passed under Ronald Reagan in 1986 or 87. I forget the exact year. And I think at the time of the writing of the bill, they had no idea the genie that they let out of the bottle. And you can look at, I'm 57. I received maybe 5 vaccinations when I was a child. Immediately, once you give liability protection, capitalists do what capitalists do. And now there's like 78 childhood vaccines on the schedule. And that, it's insanity. The number of needle pricks kids get is beyond the pale. And we know what's going on with the chronic health of all sorts of, kids born after 86, 87. This is not rocket science.
And that's before you get to, credible government, state sanctioned reports into the catastrophic consequences that there have been in India and Africa for, some of Gavi and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's determined application of, prophylactics for malaria, for HPV, for polio, and all of the rest of it. The people talk about, I've heard people be very, very, I would say, disingenuous and saying that even now when we're shouting about mRNA and demanding that it be withdrawn, people are saying, well, no, we need to look into it. You're like, no, the evidence is all out there. And more broadly, the evidence about the vaccination programs that you've just illustrated, that information's already out there. And I would like to think that Robert Kennedy Jr. was sitting somewhere with his head in his hands when he heard that announcement, however credible it was from Larry Ellison. But I would like to think that somewhere
he did one of these. I hope that's what Robert Kennedy did.
Yeah, and I was obviously almost in the same first flush of executive orders and so on. Donald Trump was shown signing the executive order to withdraw US funding from the World Health Organization. Now, I would say hooray, but as Whitney Webb was quick to point out on X, Donald Trump mid-2020 seemed to pull US funding from the World Health Organization, but but funding just got diverted to Gavi. To Bill and Melinda Gates vaccine initiative anyway. How much credence do you put on? I'd love to think that US withdrawal from the WHO would be the first big domino that would topple, that would ultimately bring down the World Health Organization as the potentially totalitarian minded organization that it seems to be. But do you have any optimism based on that action, that signature on that bit of paper?
Well, it's obviously a good executive order. I've seen on X arguments for Whitney Webb's research, and then someone did the numbers and said that the funding didn't change in 2020. So I need to do more research before I indict Trump. But Whitney Webb and others, Whitney Webb has been recently criticized being a black pill person, but we need Whitney Webbs. We need people to constantly call things out. That may not be popular, but we need people on the outside putting people's feet to the fire. People may not like it, but we need people that just say what they see, and of course we need to fact check each other and make sure we're all crossing our T's and dotting our I's. But you know, I will say this. You know, I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. And as we roll through time, if I don't see what I want to see, I will become very loud.
I mean, black pill, you call it what you want. I mean, people, effective medicine often is unpalatable. You know, and George Orwell, amongst much else, said that news is what you tell people that they don't want to hear, that everything else is just propaganda or a press release. I think the response that Whitney Webb provokes with her so-called black pill approach, I think means that she's right.
That's how they criticize her. It's a way to criticize someone.
Yeah. How are you? I mean, yours was the kind of weather vane that you're holding up to evaluate what the incoming administration does is of value to me personally. I mean, I count what you say and pay attention. You're one of the people that I look to see what you are saying about it. How are you reading that? I know it's only the first week and, you know, such a long way to go, but even more broadly than we're talking, how are you reading what we've seen so far?
Us blokes hate talking about a little thinning up top, and many of us settle with that balding look, but that wasn't for me, and that's why I went to Elite Hair, the world's leading hair loss clinic, and now I've had over 4,000 new hairs added to this barnet, and very soon I'm going to be rocking some brand new flowing locks, and you can too. So how does it work? Step 1, I sent the team a set of photos of my head. Step 2, I then spoke to one of the Elite Hair staff who looked through my photo submissions and worked out a treatment plan for me. Step 3, Elite Hair then organised accommodation and the treatment. I was at their state-of-the-art treatment centre in Istanbul, and their incredibly kind staff took me through the process, and before I knew it, I was in surgery. Elite Hair and their leading medical experts have specialised in pain-free treatments using the sleep deep method, and they really mean that. I felt incredibly relaxed the whole time, and I haven't felt any pain since. Check out Elite Hair using the link in the description. When you do, Elite Hair will provide you with a free personalised hair analysis. Then you'll join over 100,000 happy patients. Hit that link and start your hair growth journey like I did today.
I'm very happy and unhappy at the same time. So there's a lot of good, but this mRNA fiasco really, it's a tone deafness that I think, you know, at the very least, even if it wasn't the Trump administration's fault and Larry Ellison went off the rails, there was no clarification done by the Trump administration. So let's give criticism where criticism is due. They didn't walk it back. So that's a signal, right? They didn't come out and say, oh well, everything's under review. We're getting, you know, when Bobby gets in, you know, they didn't say that. That would have been nice to see. So if I had to, I hate to say this, but I have a suspicion that mRNA and warp speed are non-negotiable in Trump world. That's what I think.
Inevitable
in that Trump still is taking credit for warp speed, and he's still saying the vaccine saved millions of lives. So unless there's a secret plan I don't know about, and he and Bobby have discussed it, and they're gonna, you know, over time walk it back, I'm not as optimistic as others are at the moment.
That temptation or that determination that so many people have, and I suppose it's understandable to play 3 or 4 or 5D chess with everything that's happening in order to keep alive or to keep alight the flame of hope. I mean, I do understand it, but when there's been so much expectation, and the incoming administration know without a shadow of a doubt that their every breath is being scrutinised by people who have never been more desperate. And that I find it very difficult to allow for the possibility of mistakes of the scale of Larry Ellison talking about mRNA on day 2. I mean, I know it's flippant, but it's right up there with Elon Musk going out and making a gesture that he must have known might be interpreted the way it was interpreted. You know, the salute that he, or appearing to throw his heart out to the crowd, but he must have known that it could also be interpreted the way it was, as some sort of post-Roman, post-Nazi salute. I don't invest much faith in the idea that these things are accidental, because they had so much time to prepare for their first words after taking office, and that we've already got things of such a questionable, alarming nature. I think, are they accidents, or was it just what was intended all along?
I don't know, but I will say this. I didn't post on the Roman salute, but what I did say privately that I'll share is, how does one give the other side a morale boost? Do something that looks like a Nazi salute so that you can be called a Nazi. I mean, I called it an unforced error, but it's like the Trump administration and Elon Musk, anybody associated with this, needs to be extra careful about what they do and what symbology they express to the public. Naomi Wolf made a big deal about the Roman salute because she said this is just something it doesn't need to be you don't even need to come close to these things. This kind of unforced error is just giving the opposition fodder to create division. Because look, I in my heart don't believe. I think Elon also. I think it was genuinely a stupid error, but my gosh, what an unforced error! You just because what it does, there are people who want to believe that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are Nazis, and they gave them evidence to emotionally charge them and reinvigorate them because they were despondent after the election. This gives them emotional fear and anger to run on, which will cause bad decision making from a lot of these individuals in terms of protests, riots, anger. We don't need any of this. We just need to get to business, and sometimes saying less and doing less is better.
Have you heard anyone say anything, or have you seen anyone do anything and thought, yes, that's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to see.
Well, I did see Donald Trump address the WEF yesterday, and he called out. There was the CEO of Bank of America was sitting there. He called them out and said, basically, you've been debanking conservatives, and you must stop. I mean, it was a very uncomfortable moment. And that actually made me feel, okay, this is a different Donald Trump. He literally right then and there called out Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, which, that's great. I mean, that's right. Public forum, called them out. And the CEO really didn't even address it. It was pronounced. That was a yes moment.
I feel, though, that we are still, and I haven't heard anything to make me think not, we're still looking down the barrel of programmable currency, central bank digital currency. We're still looking at, what I regard as broadly speaking, the Ponzi scheme of so much that's out there under the guise of, cryptocurrency. That, again, I mentioned that sort of, that black hole that people call the digital cage and all of the rest of it. And however uninteresting it is to many people because it's, it boils down to, topics that aren't particularly inspiring on the surface, like arithmetic and economics. But I still feel as if we're being drawn ineluctably towards that kind of, digital currency, digital money, programmable money, controllable money, surveillance state. I'm not hearing anybody really stand up in the face of that and say that's not going to happen. I mean, even Elon Musk and the Department of Governmental Efficiency and so on could be interpreted as just a determination to get rid of regulation that has kept some things in check.
Well, there was an executive. I haven't read it yet, so the devil's always in the details. But there was an executive order yesterday saying no CBDCs. From the Trump administration, but I need to read it. But that's at least hearing that headline, that gave me some solace, at least for a day. It was a good headline.
That doesn't get us away from programmable money.
No, and Larry Fink talking about tokenizing all assets doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside either. This surveillance, anything we need to be, and my partner Carlos is working on a crypto thought piece about the different types of digital coins. And there's this case to be made. There need to be private coins where our transactions can't be monitored. We do what we want in private. And then the government maybe has if this is the way we're going, the government has a Bitcoin. They have to do everything in Bitcoin because that the ledger is transparent. So there needs to be this debate over privacy and transparency, because transparency is good, but it's also bad because everybody knows what you're doing. And privacy is good because it keeps the government out of your business, but it also opens up the door for criminals and drug dealing and human trafficking.
The Bitcoin ledger was transparent in that way until the advent of segregated witness, SegWit, and so on, which separates the digital signature from the contract. That's clearly the beginning of a conversation, perhaps for another day. But I would say that in this first week, I don't know how you would respond, but I would just say in this first week, unforced errors or inappropriate gestures or very unwanted mentions of unwanted platforms, has been to the fore. Obviously, he was going to be criticised more than he was going to be praised. It was almost inevitable, but it's not been the first week I was expecting, or maybe it is.
Neither was I. The mention of mRNA on day 2, I shook my head, but I did the research. Controlled my rage, saw for what it was, but again, the administration has a very short time frame to ban this platform in my group, and if they don't, then we know that the moneyed interests and/or Trump's ego are at play, and they're going to try to memory hold COVID and the mRNA vaccines. Good luck to them, because unfortunately, Neil. This keeps spreading. I get more and more people in the professional class who are waking up to this, reaching out to me. People who are Wall Street executives saying, I didn't believe you at first, but now I have a heart issue. These types of things. The injuries are so pervasive that it's not the dead people, it's the disabled and injured people that are starting to wake up. Dead people, unfortunately, are gone. The worst adverse reactions, death. But then that's a small, compared to everything else, that's a small number. Alarming and sad. But the injuries and the disabilities, that's where the numbers are. And those people, you're not going to be able to keep this quiet for much longer, in my humble opinion.
Oh, please let that be true. Ed Dowd, I'll definitely need to keep checking in with you for all the aforementioned reasons.
One other thing I want to mention.
Surely, yeah.
So on CNBC, one of the newscasters had Scott Gottlieb, the former FDA head and then a board member of Pfizer, who was all over the networks pumping the vaccine. This newscaster, this interviewer, said there's lots of people getting sick. There's lots of cancers. People are saying it could be COVID, and some are suggesting it could be the COVID vaccine. He actually said that on CNBC. So the V word was mentioned, and Gottlieb, dissembled and, started doing what he did. But, that for CNBC, which is a, MSM controlled, CIA, NSA outlet, for someone to finally mention that, it's beginning. It's, I think it's getting safe enough for those people to cross over into our camp and at least ask the question.
Yeah, a shiver must have run through the boardrooms of Big Pharma, looking for a spine to run up.
So that for me was great news, just to see the question asked. As ridiculous as it is, 3-4 years into this, you and I knowing what we knew way back when, it's just, it's ridiculous, but also it's good news. The fact that it took this long for the question to finally be asked, with all the evidence out there.
Indeed. All the evidence out there. Ed Dowd, thank you so much. I'll check in with you very soon because clearly it's only 1 week and there's so much else left to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neil. Great to be here.